Hello, you beautiful legends, and welcome again to Blunt Force Healing Podcast. This is episode 297, so we are approaching a very nice round number. And from the video update perspective, we are at video update number 75. If you're new to the podcast, I really recommend looking into other episodes if you're up to journals and listening to creators like myself. This is not a podcast about funny videos. This is not a podcast about soccer, although we talk about soccer from time to time because my son Julian is training soccer as a, I would say, pre-professional. He's registered with FAI, which is a football association for Ireland, and he trains with the proper football club here in Donegal town. We don't talk about recent affairs or celebrities, although it might happen that I mention that in at some point if it's I would say relevant to the discussion or the topic of the podcast. This podcast is a journal, and by journal I mean daily journal, which means I write the blog post every day and then I record podcast episode to supplement that blog post. Recently I changed slightly the order in which I do that. So now I record this first, which is the video and audio podcast, because this episode will go to Spotify and Apple and other audio podcast platforms, but it will also be available in video. And if you're watching me, you know it, it's quite straightforward. I wonder if you're watching me on the Spotify video or on the YouTube, because it would be quite interesting to see the statistics where the podcast is more watched or visible. To be honest, I don't have many statistics for Spotify. They're very simple and quite hard to determine something from them. On YouTube side, I know how many views there were and how long people watched, so I might have rough understanding of this. And the journal is not sexy, let's be honest. Most of you probably won't watch it until the end. It's not super funny, it's not about music or things that people like to be entertained with. This is a daily vlog, if you want to call it, and it was meant to be always to make me accountable and create something, be it written and recorded every day. Why? Because I never created any useful, I would say, habit or routine that I could stand for. Of course, when I start things, I'm very dedicated and I can do a lot in a very short period of time. But my character makes me more reactive to things, and I think that a lot of people can feel the same because procrastination or the lack of purpose seem to be on the rise amongst people. And I'm not surprised, to be honest, because these days, on one side, our life is easier. We have access to a lot of amenities, plenty of information and tools and automation. We are spoiled with technology, basically, and everything seems to be tailored towards humans. On the other side, we are still ancient human beings. whether you like it or not, we are descendants of the animal, and we are only a short period of time on this planet if you compare it to the history of Earth. And through that time, most of our development, I would say, or advance, is probably, you can close it within 10,000 years time frame, maybe a little bit more with recent discoveries. Let's say 20 up to 30,000 years, if we assume that there was a lost civilization that got wiped away, and that's why we have remains of unexplained by science yet. Things like pyramids, different kind of creations that shouldn't be in the places they are, and they are discovered. Even then, that civilization might have been a little bit longer before us, but the human as a species that could create things or invent things to a certain level only exists on this earth very short period of time. As a being, we are a bit longer, but our history of innovation and invention only spans about maybe 30,000 years, and that's probably a stretch. So you can imagine that everything happened pretty much recently, and our bodies got created long time ago. Yes, we are more intelligent, we know more, we can do more because of we are advancing and we are pushing our borders and limits and barriers, but eventually we are still the same biological foundation. So I like the saying when somebody compared us that with all that technology, all that intelligence that we've built over the recent decades or centuries, we are just new software on a very old hardware. And some people don't realize how how impactful it is. If you're in IT or you know a little bit of the stack, technological stack, and you ever put something that had minimum requirements higher than your device could take, or your device was, and still you were able to install some app or other program software on a computer that was very old but still running some newer operating system, and you were able to install a software that your computer didn't meet minimum requirements and was slightly below it, you probably know how it works. Basically, it doesn't. It it not it's not only a slow process to even start that software. That software usually works very slow and crashes. In the worst case scenarios, it can actually crash your operating system. And why I like that comparison, because it's a great metaphor for ourselves. The overload of the information and the fact that we have so many stimulus, like all the social media, news were there for quite a while, but they are still there, and they attack us from different angles. All the news outlets want our attention. Social media want our attention. Everybody wants our attention because this is money. Money is no longer just the products or physical things to sell. It's about information, and we are basically the currency. And specifically, the currency is our brain power and brain capacity. Nobody cares about me, you, or anyone else really when they create another app or software as a service. Anything that makes money is created to make money. Of course, there's a lot of marketing and beautiful wordings around we make your life easier and better. And some of those companies really make it easier for us, but at the same time, they make us a little bit less resilient to some extent. One of the big problems, I think, that we will survive and we will adjust and we will keep living, but the impact of will be, I think, significant, is the fact that our younger generations are spending too much time in front of the screens. And to be honest, if they spend that time learning, of course, you can say that everything in life is learning, but I mean, on typically educational stuff that makes them more intelligent, more knowledgeable, or they spend that time on polishing their skills, that's fine, but this is a small percentage. Most of the kids, and I'm not using that word in a pejorative way, it's or negative thing. Kids are our treasure. And I mean not only kids or small children, youth, even teens, late teens to young adults. These people are the future. And I don't see understanding from older generations on in how bad place they are at the moment. Because we might think that older generations are technologically not savvy and young generations are. Older generations are less physically capable in many cases, the older they are and the less they move or care about themselves, while younger generations still have a lot of juice even if they don't care about themselves. But there is one important factor that we're missing, and it's that younger generation do not know the world without all those things that surround them and are embedded in their life. We do. I'm not that old. I'm just barely crossed 40s, but still I remember, black and white TVs. I remember when the color TVs came in and there was barely two or three channels in a TV. I remember old consoles, old game systems, old mediums for data like audio cassettes, VHS, uh, big size floppies, which, well, many people won't know even the regular size floppy, which was a standard diskette that was used prior to CDs. Hey, probably many people don't even recall CDs or DVDs because we live in a times of streaming. So it is very hard to navigate for those generations in this world where they have no way to push back and look at the world through the lens of no technology or how the world looks outside of technology. There are people that, and I still mean young people that like to travel, they explore the world, but again, I see less people hiking and spending time with nature for the sake of spending time with nature. Most of those creators including myself sometimes, do it for the sake of growing their accounts, their brands, making living out of it, which is great because I wish I was able to make a living or knew the way to make out a living out of travel in the past. I wasn't taught that, and there were no resources to help out available as they are now. But many of those trips for those creators are around, hey, I need to make content so when I come back, I can push it. So that it's not necessarily relaxing environment or activity. Even if you enjoy, you're still filming all those things. You still need to edit that, post it on social media. Sometimes you get issues with that, be it like technological errors or you get demonetized or things like that. And I'm not sure if it's not more frustrating and isolating people than it is actually making them any benefit. I don't have a point that I can say here and now to prove anything. These are just my thoughts, and I wanted to share them with you because, first, after 2 days of writing and talking a little bit about tics, I'm tired. The work weeks are very tiring, so I try to step away from technology related to work, and I found myself in a slightly downward slope in terms of mental state, and I see it completely consciously because I realize I'm not in the mood and with energy levels that I think I should be, at least as a baseline. What I said so far is more to help you expand on things that you know, very likely you know them. I didn't say anything new. I just shaped it and spat out all that information in a way that might maybe cause you to think about it a little bit and maybe even feedback to me. I really appreciate if you can provide any feedback, be it over Instagram or on the blog or on YouTube. I don't think Spotify will allow you to provide any feedback, but if it is, feel free to provide it. And that was my main goal, to make you think about things that you knew underneath or they were just around you, but you are not focusing on them because obviously you have your own life and your own priorities. But now you listen to this one, and if you have kids or if you know kids, teens, young adults, I think you will look at them differently. I hope, at least. Before I wrap up this episode, I'd like to update you, as usual, on what happened today in my mere average life. So, today's morning was I would say, replication of two other mornings on Tuesday and Monday. We dropped Julian at drum bar grounds where they enjoyed football or soccer summer camp. There's 2 more days to go, and they are really happy with how it works. It's about 3 hours of fun for them and playing football or soccer, if you wish, especially if you're in, let's say, US, where football means a bit different discipline of sports. So they play soccer for 3 hours and then we pick them up. Today the weather wasn't the best. It was raining a lot. There was a lot of spells during the day, but it didn't stop them from playing. Julian said that he probably got wet and dried up as he played multiple times. Some of the kids, actually majority of the kids, during the heavier rain, they just hid in the kind of area where it was roofed, kind of sheltered. But a couple of hardcore guys decided to stay because it's pretty warm, to be honest. The temperatures are still decent, and probably if they were in the continental climate they would be on the chillier side because they're like 14, 16 degrees Celsius. But with the humidity and the air that we have, that is a little bit on tropical side, you feel like it's probably 20 something Celsius. So it's a very decent weather. So even when the rain falls, but you have something to do, some activity, it's probably pleasant to do. After that, I had a couple of work related tasks, and later on, when we picked Julian, he got his lunch and decided to stay and play a little bit. I think he was reading a book and then play a little bit of console. My wife wanted to go for a run, so I decided to join her, and we drove all the way to Murvag Beach, which is about 10 kilometers, 10 to 12 kilometers from our home. And we did a synchronous run where she started first and did her own kind of jog pace, while I decided to take shoes off and use that opportunity to, get a barefoot run alongside the shore after a little bit of time since my last run. I don't remember when was my last run, but probably a good 2 or 3 weeks ago at least. So I was a bit of a break if you don't count soccer training, which is a lot of running but not dedicated to running only. I did 7.5 kilometers. That probably amounts to about five, just shy of 5 miles, I think. Am I correct on that? Yeah, just about that. Well, a little bit less than 5 miles, probably 4.5 to 4.7 miles, which I was very happy. But when we came back, I started feeling really weak, and until now, even though I took a nice hot shower and then closed it with the 2 minutes of a cold shower, I still feel very weak, like some infection might be trying to take over my body. But it's strange that before the run I felt pretty good, and after the run it was okay, and only, I would say, half an hour after we came back from the beach, I started feeling that weakness settling in the muscles, and the shower didn't help. So I took some zinc and having my lovely tea to make sure that I'll keep my immune response in check. I'm observing myself because it may be a little bit paranoid, but considering that I took 25 plus ticks after the recent trip to Ards Forest, and the fact that they transfer a lot of those nasty viruses and bacteria, I need to be vigilant and make sure that I won't allow anything to spread too much. I don't expect anything to happen, but if there are signs that I'm afraid of, I'll definitely go for antibiotic or something like that to make sure that I give myself best chances to not develop anything serious. I'll be updating as we go. For the time being, I really appreciate your time spending. If you went as far as now, it's 25 minutes in. That's a lot of time to listen to my thoughts. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great rest of day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and stay tuned for tomorrow's episode. See ya.